No, I very rarely speak to John.
John, let's get me on mic this time. John's a good old Brit from the 1950s. But
But
it turns out that John is
yeah.
actually illegitimate and he was specially born in 1938. Did you know that?
So he's adopted.
Well, let's put it this way: his father wasn't too happy when his mother came home.
Oh, I see, I see. Well, John thinks I'm a bullshit artist, so
No,
I don't know.
really.
Yeah.
Well, let's just get things
Don't know what we're
sorted out.
supposed to do to convince him. But I'm interested in this fighting style that John's got.
I think
But he
when
won't
he
teach.
dismissed the head of the SAS and sent him packing,
But he won't teach his style to anybody. He's keeping it under wraps, I think.
well, I think he'll teach it for a substantial sum and a big smile. But just once, well, James or Michael, what is it?
Michael.
Okay, Michael, welcome to Basis 23. Well, Michael, coming from Belfast, I can put on a really good British accent because I'm more British than you are these days.
True.
And you being a US American citizen, don't know what Brits do these days. You know, driving on the wrong side of the road, fish fingers, mashed peas, and all that sort of stuff. You've probably forgot all that. Mushy peas, not mashed peas.
Yes, I miss the old mushy peas.
Yeah, I mean, that's Sebastian of civilization. So, I mean, all joking aside, what, apart from your lovely wife, which is a wonderful thing, you know, once you're a dad, the big boys have to sort of put their toys away and actually start being Mr. Responsible. That's what people keep telling me because I don't have any kids, but you have one. Great, God bless. So the point
Thank you,
is,
Miles.
tell us the whole story that brought you to America the day before you would be qualified or disqualified from joining the U.S. military. What's the story behind that? You got lots to tell us, so let's hear it.
Okay, let's get it on the road. So I've been basically stationed at the largest military base in the country since July, and that is a place called Joint Base San Antonio. And San Antonio is in Texas. That's where I'm living at the moment, in San
Right.
Antonio. So it's obviously, yeah, like I say, it's the biggest above ground base in the country. And it
Oh, I
consists
love
of three,
that. The biggest above ground base. Yeah.
yeah, one. So, but it consists of three bases. You've got Fort Sam, and then you have Lackland Air Force Base, and then I'm forgetting the Randolph Air Force Base.
Yeah.
That's the third. And the National Security Agency is based in three places in America.
Three secret places because the National Security Agency doesn't technically exist, so, well, you know what I mean. No such agency.
I mean, they have a website, um, and they say they actually advertise for jobs on the website. You can get like NSA police officer jobs, like guarding Fort Meade, things like that.
Yeah.
But they're usually looking for people with prior military experience for those jobs,
You know, like G4?
like what the private security
Yeah.
firm. Yeah, very
If you
very
get private,
similar.
anyway, okay, right. I'm being a little bit jovial because I realize this is a very serious subject. You got into the
Okay,
military. What brought you there? What brought you to the U.S. military?
um, that is a long story.
Well, tell us.
Well,
What I'm interested in, very simply, is why, for instance, as a British citizen, that you couldn't be in there, for instance, as a British attaché, some kind of involvement with British military, as opposed to having to be a U.S. military person. Is there a reason for that?
I had to be in the U.S. military for the operations I was involved in, and I wasn't working as a U.S. military soldier. I was working as, I suppose let's call it a Fourth Reich soldier to advance that agenda.
Of what?
to advance the Fourth Reich agenda
Okay.
inside the US military.
So explain that.
Well, um, it's to bring in our policies, what we want the direction of America to head.
I mean,
So I,
America would be a small part of the Fourth Reich.
it was a very important part, and
They have the
that's
muscle and the resources.
so we're needed to. I was involved in certain operations where we need to bring in agendas of gun control, and
And that's what Anya was very concerned about. The I think your last night operations photograph that you sent, where you've got, the gun pointing straight at you, referring to the Sandy Ford alleged false flag event to get rid of guns in the United States.
I mean, I'd rather not get into all that until I have the full details. I'd rather just talk for the moment about what was going on the base earlier when I first got there in July.
Okay. Well, Michael, let's speak. Let's just talk.
So I got there in July, and like I say, it's the biggest base in the whole country. Consists of, like I say, Lackland Air Force Base, Fort Sam, and Randolph Air Force Base. Now, the National Security Agency is based in three places in America, and that is down here in the city of San Antonio in Texas, the headquarters of Fort Meade in Maryland, and also Denver. Now, they're based on Lackland Air Force Base, at Joint Base San Antonio, and they have a section there called the Medina Annex, which is the NSA building on the base. There's an entrance there underground to the underground shuttle system. There's also there's entrances all over San Antonio and all over the base, the Joint Base. It's got a huge underground base below it. Now, there's also
What's the purpose of having it underground apart from a nuclear strike? Is there any other reason why it's underground like that?
well, it's interesting you mention about the nuclear strike because in 2011 there was a Russian intelligence report leaked onto the internet, and it was actually by Saoirse Fowl, and the information was that where we live in San Antonio, it's called Bexar County. That's the name of the county. And here in San Antonio, you've got Bexar County Courthouse, and that's very nearby. That's actually an entrance to the underground shuttle system at the courthouse there. And this Russian intelligence report stated that 2011, 5 CIA agents came up topside from the underground shuttle through Bexar County Courthouse entrance, and when they came out the courthouse, they were arrested by police and local FBI agents.
Is that because they literally didn't have the right pass, or they were considered as insurgents of some kind?
They were considered, there were suspicions they were about to carry out some terrorist act. I'm not sure what it was, but I knew it was a terrorist act, so they were arrested.
I mean, I'm suggesting that surely the CIA would have had relevant passes, so they would have not have failed at their mission, or relevant intelligence and relevant liaison.
I'm not sure exactly what the mission was, but my point is telling this information because it's just a big nest here in San Antonio. It's a big NSA CIA nest.
A nest is something which we would refer to normally as a non-human or an alien nest. That kind of phrase.
Definitely, it's non-humans and aliens. You've got, and it's just
What's the
like
difference between a non-human and an alien? Because we may be familiar with certain phrases and terms, certain people watching this won't be. So what I'll do sometimes is ask you to explain a phrase so that people understand what you're then saying afterwards. if
Well,
that works.
I think there's reptilians down there, and they're from other planets, obviously, and they're down there on the bases underneath. And there's definitely big cyborg projects going around. They've got BAMC, a huge medical hospital on Fort Sam. It was just near my barracks where I used to live. And we always used to have to take trips to BAMC, and it stands for Brooks Army Medical Center. It's a huge hospital on Fort Sam. We go in there in the days, and there'd be so many young soldiers, like in their 20s, in wheelchairs with missing legs, because that's where they sent them from Iraq and Afghanistan. If they lose legs, they send them to BAMC on Fort Sam, and then they kind of reintegrate them into society from there. You know, and there's definitely a lot of cyborg involvement. They're doing
It would be a useful place to mix classified and declassified technologies in plain sight.
well, DARPA's involved, and they're very heavily involved on this particular base with our cyborg limbs. So I think they're getting a lot of these soldiers that have lost limbs, and they're experimenting with attaching limbs and see how they're reacting. So these projects are all very closely linked together in this particular place.
And is there what kind of limbs are we talking about? Are we talking about bioengineered limbs?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
we're seeing a demonstration of this with the Olympics, where soldiers are able to, or people who've lost limbs, the Paralympics are able to outrun humans.
Yeah, and that's that's not sophisticated. We're talking really advanced stuff here. We're talking where they're building plasma cannons inside the forearms of the robotic arms. So they're being able to unleash laser weaponry out their hands with devastating.
Literally,
force.
just like bingo.
It pops out the middle knuckle. It's actually some kind of tube built into the forearm. It's a very small weapon, and it pops out the center knuckle, a tiny barrel, and then the laser shot.
This one,
Yeah, the middle knuckle, just here.
right? Okay.
There's pop out there, and then if that laser beam touches you, it will set your whole head on fire.
Where do they get the power to derive such energy for such a weapon?
I think they're using Vril energy, some kind of they've
The old-
har-
German Vril?
German Vril. I think it's some kind of blue energy, blue colored energy, and they've somehow harnessed it into batteries and very small miniature batteries. And I think that the cyborg limbs have got these batteries in them, and I think they're powering up this weaponry built into the arms too.
What kind of technology is involved with that? Are we borrowing it?
What's that, Miles?
Are we borrowing that? Or is it human derived? Because I mean, humans are pretty ingenious.
I think there's an underground entrance to BAMC, the medical hospital of Fort Sam. And like I say, there's one in the Bexar County Courthouse. They're scattered all over the place. Now, they're taking soldiers underground on the underground train. They're heading them straight up north to Dallas, to the Bush family ranch. That's a terminal underneath the ranch, because the Bush.
Okay, let's discuss this underground tunnel network. I was John Lear let me know recently that there was a major network within the UK, of which there was a hub under Manchester. That then goes due west through Wales and Ireland and connects up with the States. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's definitely international.
What kind of technology? I mean, to sit in a train trundling along in a tube train, in even an underground train that goes to France, that's doing 100 odd miles an hour. Still takes 20 minutes. That's a heck of a long ride.
I think it's maglev technology where they're using electromagnetics, so it's going extremely fast.
So
But there's not that
how do you
motion.
decelerate without ending up a bit ill?
You don't feel motion in there. When you go in, the shutters come down, so you don't get sick. Because if the shutters are up, you see the walls flying past so quickly, you start to feel nauseous. So they make sure they have the shutters down. You don't actually feel much motion when you're inside it.
So it doesn't feel as if you're really moving at all.
Really, no. And then it's about 20 minutes to Dallas from San Antonio Underground. And
Yeah,
you're
it's
heading up.
always been amazed that people don't use maglev railways in science, but obviously they're using it in secret.
I think, yeah, so they head up north, the soldiers, to the terminal in Dallas, underneath the bush.
Do these tunnels connect with any of the old system used by our ancestors?
I think there's deeper tunnels below that are connected.
And what kind of people are these guys?
It's you get down there and it gets very. There's like two layers of the government underground. The first layer is like the Zionist kind of government, and that's on the first couple of layers you normally see, and that's not so high tech. It's just guys like Delta Force security guards, and like in black uniforms. But there's no you don't see any SS, any Fourth Reich or anything like that down there. And it's very all the technology in the corridors and that are kind of run down. It's like typical kind of Jewish spending policies where they never spend any money on anything. It's like because it's the Zionist kind of government. But you
It
go
worked yesterday, so it'll work tomorrow.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
And the U.S. Army is a kind of communist Jewish
the
construct
outsiders.
that where they treat the soldiers like crap and don't feed them, and it's just they don't spend any money on anything. They feed them
It's
nasty food, terrible conditions. But anyway, so you go deeper.
what do you mean by deeper? You talking 100 miles or
Well,
what?
you go deeper down the levels, and it becomes then you're getting into the real kind of government. This is the Fourth Reich government. Everything's a lot more expensive looking. Everything's more high tech, and then you'll start bumping into the Fourth Reich soldiers there with the much more stylish and expensive uniforms.
Oh well, they have to have a certain amount of style. I mean, the one thing about the Nazis is they did have good style.
Well, yeah, they did, and
Yeah, but their motor cars aren't necessarily that much better. So what are
so
they doing down there? I mean, I understand that if you go too deep, women can't procreate. Their biorhythms don't work. How do they deal with that kind of problem?
well, the Nazis down there they have the policy of polygamy. Most of the guys down there have like 4 or 5 wives.
Yeah, but you've got to have wives which will reproduce. Their biorhythms don't work properly. How do they deal with that issue?
As far as I know, they're able to reproduce. I'm not sure. I mean, we're maybe talking only a mile down or something
Oh,
here.
right. Okay. Yeah.
We took like a mile down.
Which is,
So,
for the average mine, isn't a huge distance down.
but it goes a lot deeper than that.
Have you been down there? Have you got any data on how deep those places go?
I just remember going down the first levels with with the train, underground train, just going on there, and there's definitely connections with the Bush family, the ranch, spending time there. I remember having meetings there with Donald Rumsfeld was there, George Bush Jr. was there, and George Bush Jr. calls me our British friend, and Donald Rumsfeld doesn't like me very much.
Is that because you can speak better than he does? You can string more
Uh,
than two words together?
Probably, probably, and I mean
Or does he just not like limeys?
he just doesn't like the fact that some people are saying certain things about me that could be a threat to them.
Okay, what are people saying about you? Because people don't believe you've actually joined the army. They think some of the shots are staged. You know, all this kind of stuff's going to be, you know, coming up. How do you deal with that? How do you?
It's ridiculous. I mean, of course, they're real pictures. I mean, I've got video footage I can send you, and I've got DVDs from the training I can send you.
Yeah.
So I want you to have a look at one particular part of the footage from my training. There's something going on there, some anomalies.
So I think let's get back to the beginning. I mean, I saw you in a little quiet seaside resort with a sandy beach, and then about a year later, you're going to the States, and you're all beefed up. You've eaten too many McDonald's hamburgers with those funny chemical buns, and you're going to be a goddamn Yankee, for God's sake. So what's the story to get you there, and what happened when you got there?
Before I joined the army, about 6 months before, I was told from a friend in the CIA that they've reactivated the IBIS program, and they're trying to seed foreign citizens into foreign militaries. This is what I was told, and I hadn't even decided to join the US Army then.
That's a big decision.
Well, they were saying they were trying to seed IBIS operatives into foreign militaries to push forward the Fourth Reich agenda. Now, it turns out that the 42 children in IBIS was named after Thoth. We talked about this before. Ibis named after Thoth, the Egyptian deity. Now, that if you study Satanism, Thoth is a high-ranking demon in the satanic hierarchy of demons.
Now, demons is an emotive word. What really are these beings? Where do they come from? What's their actual existence?
I think we're just talking about extraterrestrials here, reptilian extraterrestrials.
Or dimensionals, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't really understand all that stuff, dimensions. I'm about what's physically happening in this dimension, but yeah, definitely extraterrestrials, reptilian. Now, they were saying Thoth. It was the IBIS program was based. The name came from Thoth. Now, they're saying that the 42 children they tracked, it was for the Illuminati religion. They believe that one of the children is the physical embodiment of Lucifer on the earth.
Now, these pictures which an Amash member came up with looked a little bit like you. Now, Anya says they're not like you. Are they like you? Are they? What's the story about those?
He comes from the same batch. Now, what was interesting is, about 2 days before I saw Basis 21 with the whole David Rockefeller's son in it, I said to Haley that I was convinced that David Rockefeller's son was a clone of me before I even saw the Basis 21. And when I saw the Basis 21, I thought, other people are starting to recognize this now.
But is it correct? I mean, you can have two brothers. They could look similar. Two brothers can look completely different.
Okay, well, I'll talk about an important photograph.
Because there's one is quite a slim guy. Yeah. Another's got a lot of beard, and he's, you know, maybe we don't know the ages or the times when they're taken.
He's the same age as me, David Rockefeller's son. He's 35. And what is very interesting is there was a photograph being passed around the intelligence community in America. And my friend in the CIA was asked to come up to Virginia, to Langley, for a meeting. And when he got up to Virginia, he was shown a photograph taken, I think it was the mid-80s. It was taken in British Columbia in Canada, near Nelson. It showed Berezinski. there with me, my friend, and about 10 other children, all boys that look like brothers. He was showing that picture. And like I say, it was Berezinski, high-level majestic operative, obviously a famous politician. He's there, standing there, and the evergreen trees are all in the background, and we're sitting. It's like a picnic table. Like I said, Berezinski, I'm in the picture. My friend from the CIA in the picture, and there's 10 other boys that look similar. I think David Rockefeller's son is in the picture. He's one of the batch, and there's a book about him online written by Wes Penray, and they're saying that the Illuminati believe he is the incarnation of Lucifer or Satan.
Okay, that's a belief system. Is there any fact about this? I mean, are they
Um,
are they implying something to
well,
something which is like
in the
Rosemary's
book,
Baby or what?
in the book now, about David Rockefeller's son, there's a document there that suggests that his company has put $1 trillion into black projects. And now this guy is not to be underestimated. Wes Penray says he's a cyborg with superhuman strength. And people have seen him in the gym demonstrating superhuman strength. He said people have seen him drink a whole bottle of vodka and not even get drunk.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, the
he
old
has
Russian could do that, no problem on a.
he has a private army working for him, all ex like Air Force intelligence, Navy people, and the Illuminati are saying, according to this book, that he is Lucifer. An incarnation of him, Satan.
What's the purpose of that? Take the planet over, wipe the rest of us out, enslave us, or what?
Um, I think there's definitely population reduction in
I hear an
hand.
awful lot about population reduction, but to a lot of countries, population's increasing, according to statistics.
I mean, there's.
Well, are we talking population reduction within 2 generations?
I just think the stage has been set for uh, nuclear strike on America, but I don't want to make predictions.
I don't believe that nuclear weapons actually function too well to do that. Would there be another way of doing it?
There's plenty of ways to do it. Um, but
Why
I think
America? Why should the Fourth Reich attack America when it's its main resource?
because of what it's become a racial melting pot.
But they've done that. They done that to poison the races? Isn't that their function to
Well, that was
to undermine the races so the elite will then survive?
there's two elites. You asked in Bases 9 who's the bad guys, who's the good guys. There's two factions. You've got the Zionist Jews versus the Fourth Reich Nazis. The same as when it goes back to the Russian Revolution and before that, when the Jewish Bolsheviks killed over 10 million white Aryan Russians. Then in the World War II, the Germans turned around and killed a lot of Jews. And obviously, there's a lot of controversy about the Holocaust and how many was the exact number, but they did definitely get
Yeah, I
killed.
think there's a few basic mechanical production line issues with that. I think that's a
Yeah.
that's a
So,
physical.
I mean,
Just
it
yeah.
carried on after that. It was just going back and forth, the war, and then
Well, just thinking, just interrupting there. Your good close friend Barry King's father was meant to be involved with finding something very important in one of those research camps about strange humans and a strange aircraft.
I mean, the Fourth Reich is it takes a lot of its power from artifacts, where they can power up a soldier. They can connect one soldier up with an artifact or several artifacts and make that one individual powerful enough to neutralize an army of
What kind of artifacts?
2,000 soldiers.
What kind of artifacts are we talking about? But I mean, I'm talking about what Barry, and let's face it, Barry King started this whole story, what about his father finding German scientists or a lab with German scientists working with some kind of strange humans for the purposes of interfacing some kind of technology with certain racial characteristics of people from the concentration camps? What about that?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is race related. There's a there's about to be a race war here in America.
Okay, race related. But what are the key factors in certain races which are important and which are not important? I mean,
Well,
Zionist, Aryan, whatever.
The Jewish Zionist agenda was very much to, because America was always a white country. It was very much to bring Africans in,
So
and
the so-called slave trade was designed to do that.
yeah, well, they wanted to bring them in, and then in turn, the Jew wanted to give the black in America prestige in like the areas of sports and entertainment,
Yeah.
and that was purposely and socially engineered so the black could get prestige and interbreed with white women, and the plan was to submerge white blood and by mixing the races.
Well, this is interesting because this shares what your close friend and appreciative colleague John Irwin is saying, that there is it's basically this is designed to destroy the so-called white race, the so-called white races.
Yeah, I mean, they were because the Nazis believed that they descended from Atlantean white supermen, and they believed that they'd lost their powers, certain abilities
And
by.
that's called Ireland or Ireland, because Ireland, that's the suppression of the knowledge base. Michael Tessarian, people like that would talk about origins of civilization based on Ireland, which is Aryans, which isn't race specific. It's just those who have the wise and higher knowledge.
Yeah, definitely, and they wanted to. The Nazis believed that they devolved through dark races mixing with their Atlantean blood. So they were attempting to purify themselves again to get back to the original state, the Nazi God man. So the plan, is, the Jewish Zionist plan, was to bring in blacks to America so they could interbreed with white women to submerge that real power in the blood, so we couldn't come out.
Now, are we talking? There's a difference here between Jews and Zionists. Are we talking? Is there a difference there? I mean, this is very emotive stuff that we're talking about here. So I want to make things absolutely clear, so that we're talking on a practical level as opposed to any kind of a race bias level.
It's definitely a Jewish elite. I mean, they've laid it out in the Protocols of Zion that they want to exterminate the white race. It's the Jewish.
Are they not white themselves? What do you determine a so-called white race?
Okay, some of them look very white. When I went to Sotheby's in New York and I met the Duke of Marlborough there, you can use that picture for the series.
I just find it was so close to Peasmore, Duke of Marlborough, Peasmore, and crop circles. There was a load of things that sort of operated there that was a little bit coincidental.
Yeah, and these people are kind of bringing me in so they can meet me, so they can kind of feel me out and things.
Why you?
Because they're trying to work out who in the 42 is this person. And they want to.
I mean, you've identified the person. Who is the person? The so-called person.
Well, some factions say it's David Rockefeller's son.
And you're saying that would be the person who would contain Lucifer.
Well, there's other factions that believe it's not him. Now, it's the belief systems of the Fourth Reich and the Illuminati. Ultimately, they believe Jesus, Lucifer, and Thor from the Odinist religion are the same person. And they believe one person out that 42 is going to carry, is going to embody, is going to be that person. And
Why do
it's
we
going
need one bloke to save the planet? Why do we need one guy?
oh, they
Is he
want,
gonna?
the Illuminati need a leader. It's always been run by one man.
So the Illuminati, in essence, are useless without a leader. They don't have independent thought. They don't have any ability to think for
Uh,
themselves.
it's he makes the decisions and everybody else just carries it out. He can
It's
make
not a
sense.
very superior race if they can't think for themselves, come up
Yeah,
with
but
creative thought.
they don't need to think for themselves because they believe the leader is a god, and
So
he
they're
can make
subservient to that.
yeah they're subservient to it. And he can make 7 phone calls and have 1 million individuals go into action within 24 hours. It's always been led by one person. The eye at the top of the pyramid means one man.
And you're saying that, or some people are saying that that picture, that guy, Rockefeller, which looks like you, is that guy.
It's some people in the Illuminati are saying it's him. Other people are saying it's not him. There's two kind of bloodlines in the fact there's two factions in the Illuminati, Fourth Reich and the Zionist Jews. There's two bloodlines at play. You've got the bloodline that believes they descend from King David, and it's the Jesus bloodline. We've heard so much about this. Then you've got the other side who believe that they descend from Odin, and they're
Now, Odin, that's a different
the
line.
Germanic
The
blood.
Nordics.
It's a different bloodline. It's a Germanic bloodline. Now, there's a very interesting documentary by Professor Sinclair on YouTube. It's called God Kings. Now
Okay.
he's identified the two bloodlines, the Jewish Zionist, the Jesus bloodline, and the Germanic Odin bloodline. And he says he has lists of them. Now he says that they've interbred together, those two bloodlines, to form one. And it's become they have a symbol.
What?
The
Okay, what's the symbol and what's the significance of that bloodline? I mean, we hear all this about
Jewish
bloodlines.
bloodline is the two have joined together. They've been warring for a long time, and
What's the
they've taken like a prince and a princess from each different families and married them off together to create a new bloodline.
That's like any good old family betrothal. What's the dowry to this wedding, this unity?
It's a new bloodline, which is the symbol is a swastika inside a Star of David. They fit together perfectly geometrically, and it's the symbol of the Raelian movement. They have that symbol. They use that particular symbol.
Yeah, I mean,
and
I'm using very, very simple terminology because other people who don't understand this kind of thing, I have to try and equate that. So they're a very religious style movement, the Raelians.
they were involved in cloning. They
Yeah,
were
they,
involved
they, they claim to have done the first alleged
first
clone. I mean,
clone Eve back in the Bahamas. It was. There's a lot of cloning goes down.
was that successful?
Yeah, it was successful. There was a lot of cloning goes on down in the Bahamas. Now,
Now,
I,
one of
this,
the problems about cloning is you might be able to have a biological entity, but what about the spiritual entity that enters it? Is it human?
I think each time you clone somebody, you lose quality.
Because it's not derived from the original pattern the universe created. Is that right? You've
I
only
think
got
it's like
three
maybe
goes at it.
I'm not an expert in this, but I think it's like chopping a photograph up, and then you expand the little pieces, but it's lost quality from the picture.
Yeah.
So I think a very important part of Project Ibis was they didn't do cloning because they kept the original body. They tried to life extend the original body.
Now, what is this life extension technology? I mean, is it something that keeps the Queen Mother going or Yeltsin or whatever?
It keeps a lot of people going.
And
You, for instance, if you get your arm blown off in war, I mean, they're not, instead of just cloning a whole new body, they'll reattach a new arm. Because if they want it, if they want to clone you, they wouldn't bother reattaching a new arm. They just grow a whole new body. So they stay away from cloning because of the life extension side of things.
Now, this leads on to damage to the body. You claim to have an awful lot of enhancements. What are these enhancements, and why do you need them?
I think there's a special
I'm
type.
referring to the photograph that Anya says is a medical team, part of your division, which is involved with some kind of time travel. Do you want to talk about that, lead up to that?
I think they were after the NSA were after a certain type of metal to incorporate into the body, a very resilient metal. Now, there's definitely connections with the Odin bloodline here. Now, he in legends, in Norse legends, Odin's had a weapon which was a spear, and
Yeah.
it was called Gungnir, his spear, and he was crucified on a tree, and the spear was put through his side.
This is the origins to the so-called Jesus story of crucifixion.
Exactly. And it was here that Odin came up with the rune symbols when he was crucified on the tree and the spear was put through his side, according to Norse legend. Now, they're creating the exoskeleton out of a specific type of metal, and it's cold. The process is cold fusion. They found this metal on one of the moons of Saturn.
Now, the thing about this is this referring to a metallic exoskeleton or a fiber exoskeleton? I'm referring to a fiber that seems to be virtually indestructible, which is of alien origin, allegedly.
The skeleton itself is metal, is alloy.
Yeah.
It's made
Is that a
of this.
flexible kind of metal to allow you to move? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's flexible. The joints aren't made of it. The joints aren't. It's only the actual bones themselves are made of this particular metal.
does it have a name or a number or a category?
I've heard it be called pre-metal, PRI, and it comes from one of the ice moons of Saturn. I think you pronounce it Enceladus.
Right. And now that's obviously been obtained by a space sort of mining operation, which is either human or...
They sent super soldiers to the moon to recover the metal. But
How do they
found-
know the metal was there to start with?
That's a good question.
I
They've been
mean, are we
looking
talking
for it
Gary
all-
McKinnon non-terrestrial officers here or what?
They've been looking for it all over the place. And they found it.
No, but how did they know it was existed? I mean, if you Saturn's a bit of a distance away. What kind of craft were they using? How did they get there?
And then they're using jump gates to send in craft. They sent super soldiers in onto the moon to look for the metal, and there was some kind of all creatures there, like wolves and all sorts of things there,
Like what?
like kind of like werewolf beings in the ice, and they had to like battle through these creatures to
I
get.
mean, yeah.
to the-
I mean, this is one of the fundamental reasons. Why do you need a super soldier? I mean, a decent fit army has obviously demonstrated you can beat the hell out of another human army. You know, the United States military's got the most fantastic weapon systems around. Okay, sniper fire and small wall, small arms fire and hand-to-hand combat is always a difficulty for any kind of a military organization because it's the geography and the physical battleground you're dealing with. So what's the basic logic to having super soldiers?
Okay, put it this way: the soldiers that are going there, connecting up with have got artifacts on them that are activating them, like the spear, like Odin's spear and other artifacts. These guys are able to levitate, fly through the air. They're able to project these particle beam weapons out their hands. They're able to project intense heat out their eyes.
You're
They're
talking about essentially a non-fiction version of the so-called X-Men, like in the movies.
exactly. They're able to generate force fields around their bodies. They're able to teleport.
You mean
Um,
like Jim Mars?
I'm not familiar
Oh,
with that.
he made a wee mistake one day operating a little silver thing and was gone within a second.
Oh, okay. I think this is slightly different
He's,
because they've got full.
but the thing about this is why weaponize? What are these guys actually trying to fight? Well, what's the purpose of this?
Well,
Apart from looking good on a movie.
that mission was to get the spear or get the metal that the spear was
What was
made
the
from.
name of the mission and when did it happen?
I think there was time travel involved.
Now, how is time travel involved? Do you, what sort of what happens to you? I mean, the understanding is that it degrades the human bioframe.
Um, Not when you've got. Okay, if you the answer to that is they take you on the underground train from Fort Sam. You go to Dallas, and from Dallas you head west to Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. Now you go when you arrive there, you go to Sandia National Laboratories. Now this is where they house the jump gates, the time travel technology.
Okay, it
It's just,
sounds groovy, but is there, I mean, I'm an engineer. I'd like to know more about how that kind of stuff works.
well, I'm not a scientist, but they put you in a room. There's obviously you got four walls. There's four screens, and then they project a video. They take a video of wherever it is from whatever time frame. They project the image onto the video screen on all four walls, so you're surrounded by the environment at 360 degrees, and somehow they make the video footage of it real, and you walk through into the environment.
So it's some form of projected light which
They use
connects.
a projection screen to do it, and they make it real somehow, solid.
I mean, we've had a recent death here, the MASH project, where one of the daughters of one of the witnesses was fighting the evil of the Illuminati, but she was saying before she died that the Illuminati were using her mind for a time travel purpose. It's the use of, if you believe it, do you become it? Is that what you're saying?
I think that they sometimes use psychics to open up the gates.
I mean,
This is,
how are these gates
I mean,
run?
I've traveled through gates before,
Now,
but
what do
they're
these
like,
things look like? I mean,
the gates are like Egyptian, big Egyptian artifacts, like big stone circles with.
is there any imagery that you could send which would indicate what these things have a look like? I mean, are we talking Stargate like in the
Yeah,
TV
look
series?
like Stargate, yeah, with symbols on the side. Now you
I mean,
can
are they circular things, two
yeah,
big
circular.
columns?
Yeah, no, it's just circular.
I mean, for instance,
They look old.
in the TV series Fringe, they used two vertical pillars. There's been on American television last year. There was a guy who was saying during the war, his father took him to a jump gate in New York, and he ended up in the middle of the state somewhere on a Saturday morning, and it was two things beside two sort of columns, anything like
It's
that.
no, these are round. They look old. They're ancient. These are round. They look like made of some kind of stone, like black stone.
I mean, are
They
you
have
saying that
symbols.
Richard Dean Anderson has got inside knowledge?
Well, they have psychics sometimes sit in front of the gates in chairs, and they have the psychics open up the gates. Not always, though.
Is that so that whatever's on the other side is safe?
They sometimes have psychics bring in beings through the gates, and not just send soldiers through them. They have beings come back, and the psychics open up the gates. But the room was nothing like that. It's completely different technology. This is like a jump room at Sandia Labs. Like I say, they just use video footage and somehow make it real.
But where do they get the video footage from?
I'm,
Have
I think it's connected with satellite technology.
Now, but a satellites around Earth, how do you get that imagery of another world, another time? How do you get there to start with?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything else. You've got to get it. You get across a rope, across a fjord, you know. But somebody's got to get the damn rope across there to start with.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's three sets of DARPA scientists in. There's three separate DARPA teams. There's one in France in 1812, and there's another. The second team of DARPA scientists are here in 2013, and the third set is they're in 2212, I think. And they're communicating back and forth with each other. They're passing technology back and forth with the three time locations.
And what are they? Do you know?
The they were able to secure a lot of reptilian limbs in 1812. So they're based in Alsace-Lorraine, the border of France and Germany. This
What do you
team.
mean by a lot? What are you talking about?
There was some kind of battles in the area at the time, like Knights Templar or something, with reptilians, and apparently they hacked off a lot of the reptilian limbs. So these DARPA scientists have got hold of these limbs. I think
And they haven't decayed?
no, well, they've preserved them somehow,
Yeah, okay.
and this is connected to the manuscript, the cuneiform manuscript.
Yeah.
I think that come from that time and that place. I think it's that set of DARPA scientists that wrote that. That manual describes working with reptilians to rebuild the human body.
What do you mean by rebuild the human body? Enhance it or what? Or develop it into what?
To enhance it, I think if they've lost body parts and the body's been seriously damaged in war, they're looking to replace it with cybernetics. So the team in 2212 has got the most advanced cybernetics. So if the team in 1812 is passing the reptilian limbs to the team now in this time, they're working on it, developing cybernetic versions of those robotic limbs.
So those
Well,
robotic limbs are for reptilians. So why are they building reptilian parts?
They're for humans. They're grafting them to humans.
And how does a completely different alien biophysical body work with a human? How does that work?
Because they're not grafting the whole arm onto the human, they're grafting the skeleton onto them, then growing human-looking flesh over the top, so you can't notice.
So that means it gives them a much stronger hit.
When they studied the limbs in France in 1812, the scientists, they found that they had retractable bones in the knuckles and in the forearm that could pop out.
So that explains the ability to send knives out from the top
it's
of
like a blade.
It's essentially the nails of the fingers are retracted further back up into the hand.
I think some of them are on the end, some of them come out the knuckles, and then others come out the inside of the wrist.
Yeah.
So they're coming out different ways.
I mean, we're talking science fiction here and a lot of Hollywood films and stuff like that. Are you saying it's based on reality in the last 3 or 4 minutes of this part?
Yes, definitely. So the scientists who've got them in our time frame, they're working on ways to cybernize the limbs, but they haven't got everything perfected. So if they're not sure about something, they pass it to the team in 2212.
No, I'm just really I just don't understand how this time travel stuff can work. How do you get people through that? How does it all work? Well, we're coming a wee bit to the end of this particular part. So I think what we'll do is we'll rather than get into another subject, we'll call this the end of Basis 23 Part 1, and we'll reconfigure for Part 2, And what I really want to get down to is why you're in the army and what brought you there, what you've been doing. You've been having a good time, living on the U.S. taxpayers' tax dollars. And I see you got a bit of a cut lip there.
Yeah.
You haven't been having a bit of a barroom brawl like they all do in the movies?
No, no, no. Just got scratched up a bit.
Oh, right. Okay, well, Michael, it's good to see you. We'll just reconfigure for part 2 and see you on the other side.
Sounds good.
Okay, 1 second. It'll be about 2 minutes. Okay.
So do you want to carry on?